always does, and the over after you buy a 1.5. Now, again, if you want the Butt Fumble Sports picks right before the weekend kicks off, go to the website, buttfumblesports.com, sign up for the free newsletter. You'll get all of our picks, gambling trends, and game notes that go into that, and that way you're ready for divisional round that comes out on Friday morning. Additionally, for those who go to the website, you'll see some of our new merchandise and apparel, which includes team-specific and player-specific shirts, the Josh Allen Buffalo Bill Hurdle, the Mr. Irrelevant with Brock Purdy, Jones on Jones Crime out in Vegas, and some California Love with Debo Samuel. Definitely check out those shirts. ButtFumbleSports.com. You just go to the store on the website, ButtFumbleSports.com. Check out the shirts. Let us know what you think. The next game of the divisional round that we're going to go into is Saturday night at 8:15 between the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. This is round 3 between NFC East rivals, with the Eagles having won the first 2 matchups. In this game, the Eagles are a 7.5-point favorite, and the total is set at 48 points. Some gambling trends for you. The Giants are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 meetings in Philadelphia, while the road team is 7-3 against the spread in the last 10 meetings between the two. The Giants are 5-0 in their last 5 Saturday games, while the Eagles are 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games overall. Some trends that relate to the total. The under is 4-1 in the last 5 meetings in Philly. The over is 5-1 in the Giants' last 6 Saturday games, and the over is 5-1 in the Eagles' last 6 games versus a team with a winning record. Adam, we start with you. Giants, Eagles, do we find a different outcome in round 3?
Yeah, so this line opened at 47.5. Went up to 7.5 for Philly and 48.5 on the over-under. So not a whole lot of line movement to begin with. Weather shouldn't be a factor here on Saturday night. 30 degrees, 5 to 10 mile an hour winds. Like you mentioned, Wyatt, they played twice this year. Most recent week 18 where the Giants sat just about everybody, but played a competitive football game, 22-16. Philly got out to a big lead, and the Giants came clawing back. So I think there's some confidence to be gained there. Because of their week 14 matchup, Philadelphia pretty much dominated that game at 48-22. Sanders had a big day with 144 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Brown and Smith both had big days. And Jones and Taylor actually played in that game, were sacked 7 times. But this Giants football team is a different football team from week 14. I really believe going on the road in the NFL and winning a playoff football game is one of the hardest things to do, and they did it. And now don't get me wrong, Minnesota has not been good. They've been the frauds. Everyone's been saying all year long. But that, having said that, they still had to go there and play the football game and win. I think it's a big confidence builder. I had the Giants in that game. I couldn't quite pull the trigger on the money line, but I love the points with them, thinking to be a 3-point game either way. And Jones had a big day, 301 through the air, 2 touchdowns and 78 yards on the ground. Really, kind of a coming of age for him. Barkley had a decent game, not overly great, but a decent game to keep going on here. The one thing I look at, though, in this football game is 2 things. One, the injuries on Philly. Lane Johnson and Robert Quinn on defensive line and Lane Johnson tackle are questionable for this game. Those could be 2 huge injuries if those guys don't play. But the one thing I noticed in that Week 18 game, and tell me if I'm wrong, Loper, and why, Hurts looked like he was playing scared in that football game against the Giants. He looked like he was afraid to get hit. I'm not so sure how healthy he is. They needed that football game to secure the number 1 seed, and they've obviously been sputtering to the finish. I'm not so sure how healthy Hurts is. And I think if this Giants defense can get to him and pressure him and force him out of the pocket and make him run and maybe make him feel uncomfortable, I really like the Giants here in this spot with the points. We always talk about division games are so hard, especially when the spread is big. And 7.5 to me is just a little bit too big in this game. I think Philadelphia, obviously, probably in the money line is a pretty decent play, although I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants would end up winning this football game. This team believes right now. They believe in Brian Dable, and Daniel Jones, I think, really rallied the locker room in that game against Minnesota. So I'd just be really careful with this one here with the Giants. I like the Giants in the points. You could do Philly with a teaser and get them down maybe, to right around even or 1. But I love the Giants in the points here. Again, over-under is a little bit too high for me right now. I know a lot of people are back in the over. In fact, 74% right now of the public is on the over. But for me, I like the Giants, and actually the public is with the Giants right now. The Giants are 70% of the money coming in right now in the spread with the Giants. So I'm actually on that side, which, sometimes it can be a little nervous to be there. But like I mentioned, I think Philadelphia's run defense is going to be a problem with Jones and Barkley. I think they will move the football, but I'm just going to point to Hurts. I don't think he's 100% healthy, and I think that if they get to him and rattle him, this could be a problem for Philadelphia on Saturday night.
Some great analysis from Adam. I want to follow up on one thing you said, Adam. I just looked it up. Lane Johnson says he's going to play on Sunday or on Saturday against the Giants. So that's not the team coming out and saying that. That's no doctor. Lane Johnson has said he's going to play. And to your point, I think that makes a massive difference to actually the big point that you made, which is Jalen Hurts comfortable in the pocket? Does he feel tentative? Is he feeling healthy? Lane Johnson being back would certainly add to his confidence level and his reason to feel a bit more secure every time he goes back to throw a pass. Lope, Adam broke that down so brilliantly. Lope, what's your take on this game? Do you feel similarly that the Giants may be a good play, or do you have a bit more confidence in the NFC #1 seed, Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, one of the hardest things to do in football is beat a team 3 times. It's a division game in general, so I think 7.5 is a good number to take the points in the Giants. Brian Daboll's done a great job. He's coaching his butt off, and he's getting a lot out of players that we don't see. I think we are also seeing a little bit of effect with him leaving Buffalo, but we'll get to that later. But I think that this is a good matchup. I think both teams are going to like to run the ball, so I'm going to go a little bit different than the public. I'm going to stick with the under, but I really like the Giants plus 7.5. Daniel Jones has a little bit more confidence running and throwing. I don't expect a big game like he did against Minnesota, but I think he can do enough to hang around, and I think the Giants are a solid play with the points.
First things first, I want to give a big shout out to the NFC East. We were criticizing the NFC East prior to the season, thinking it was going to be one of the worst divisions in the NFL. Some of us, I actually thought the Eagles were going to be pretty good. I thought the I thought the Cowboys were going to be good, but I certainly didn't think that the Giants and Commanders would hold up their end of the division, and they certainly have. To reach this point in the year, we only have 4 games left, and we have 2 of them featuring NFC East opponents, and one of them obviously featuring 2. So the NFC East, best division in football, really impressive. Now, let's actually break this game down. Daniel Jones has been outstanding over the second half of the year. Once he really understood Brian Daboll's system and he stopped turning the ball over, Daniel Jones has been sneakily a top 5, top 6 quarterback in the NFL. And that's not just throwing the ball, that's running it. Now, again, he has played the Minnesota Vikings twice over the last month. That has padded some stats because the Vikings are so bad on defense. But I feel much more confident that Daniel Jones is doing things instinctively. He's not running because he's being told to run. He's running because he sees the lane. He sees the opportunity. We praise Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes for those kinds of instincts. I think Daniel Jones has that kind of athleticism, but at times he's been tentative. Again, whether it's his coaching or whether he felt the pressure of, I have to perform a certain way or otherwise I'll be criticized. But he appears to be much more free in his decision making and his execution. That gives me a lot of confidence. What doesn't give me confidence is 2 things. One, the Eagles are a great defense. They're not a good defense. They're a great defense, especially when healthy. And now they've had time to get healthy. So I feel very good about the Eagles side of the ball defensively. And second of all, do the Giants really have weapons? I know Richie James has become a receptions machine, and Hodgins and Slayton have played better. But in reality, the Giants wide receivers aren't really division round level. They might be wild card round level, but I don't think they're going to be up to the tier that they'll need to be in this matchup. And because the Eagles have such a good secondary, such a good defense, I think you will see the disparity between the two play themselves out at some point. I think it'll be challenging for wide receivers to get open or to get the big chunk plays that they'll need. That's one side of the ball. On the other side, I think Adam's absolutely right. Jalen Hurts isn't 100%. There's something off there, but getting his offensive line back with Lane Johnson, that's going to be the big difference for me. I would try and run the ball if I'm the Eagles. I want to set things up with the play action so I can go deep to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So I think Miles Sanders, his total yardage might not be a lot, but I think they need to really include him. His rushing attempts is something I want to watch. because if that rushing attempts is too low, that's where I could see the Eagles falling into trouble. I think they need to play a balanced game, allow Hurts to have that extra half beat, half second or more of time to throw those deeper passes. But I really like the Eagles in this game for a number of reasons. I know it is tough to beat a divisional opponent 3 times, but this Eagles team is a great roster. They have the right quarterback who's played in big games, so he's not going to get spooked by the playoffs playing in a playoff game. Their offensive line is getting healthier. They have a good head coach. I'm not crazy about Nick Sirianni, but I think he's good enough to manage this game well. So I'm going to go with the Eagles on the money line. One note for you, though, the Giants are 7-1 against the spread on the road this season, and they've actually been the best against the spread team in the entire NFL this year. So for a number of reasons, Giants covering is also a good play. And yes, I am going with the over, in part because I got burned last week. I feel like the over is going to remain a good play across these NFL games because the NFL league office wants the over to hit. So if the league office wants the over to hit, might as well put my money there as well. So again, the Butt Fumble Sports early line pick of the week for the Philadelphia Eagles and Giants game is Philly on the money line, Giants to cover +9 after I buy 1.5, and the over after I buy 1.5. One more time, those are the early line bets. If you want to get our bets a day before the kickoff of these games, go to buttfumblesports.com, sign up for the free newsletter. In that newsletter, you'll not just get the game picks, total plays, and player prop bets that I like, but also you'll get all of my game notes and the gambling trends. So whether you agree with my pick or don't, you'll know what goes into it, and that way you can make a smart, educated decision for yourself.